what is ITIL? If you, in case new to this, basically ITIL is the Information Technology Infrastructure Library, which consists of 5 core publications. And these 5 core publications reflect 5 stages of service life cycle. For example, from service creation all the way to the service retirement. So if you, let's say, as a service provider offering services, let's say a new internet service or any IT related service, they have divided into the 5 stages, and then it goes from service strategy to service design to service transition to service operation, and finally to the continual service improvement. So these are the 5 stages. So when you discuss the ITIL, everything is categorized among those 5 stages, among those 5 the so we divide all the processes, all the activities in the ITIL into these 5 stages of service life cycle. um, we know that ITIL is owned by Axilos. It's published by the stationery office in UK, and ITIL is basically a framework of best practices. It's not vendor specific, it's non-proprietary, and it doesn't prescribe you anything, but it recommends you the best practices. What can you do in your organization to have optimized results, to have better value for your customers, to provide services with the with value what your customers are looking for. So this is what ITIL is about: adopting the best practices which are based on academic research, which are based on industry experience, and so years of industry experience. So ITIL suggests you the best practices. So it's basically a framework. And of course, ITIL is the world's most widely used management framework. I mean, there are others also, but then ITIL is no doubt. And I were told that over 90% of Fortune 500 companies, in some way or other, they have ITIL implemented, or they benefit from ITIL in a way. So very common, and it's actually increasing. And so that's why there's a lot of demand for ITIL certified professionals, and because the organizations want you to be aware of these best practices. So as I said, ITIL basically is divided into 5 stages of service life cycle, and then in every stage there are certain processes associated with it. And if I talk about the ITIL Foundation version 3, let's say the earlier one, we discuss around 26 processes. And these processes are either associated with any of these 5 stages of service life cycle. So for example, certain processes are part of the service strategy, others are service design. So they suggest you to go through these processes when you are in that particular stage of service life cycle. And then there are also functions, 4 functions we discuss in ITIL Foundation, which are basically part of the service operation stage of service life cycle. So this is how the ITIL's structure is. And a little bit more if in case you're new to the ITIL, in ITIL we frequently talk about the service, and every day we use tons of services. In general, ordering a cab, ordering a pizza can also be an example of service, or watching movie and subscribing to these movie channels, that's also a service. But here we specifically dealing with the IT related services. For example, you providing internet services to your customers, or let's say you're providing some database services. There are tons of different examples. So generally, the way we describe service is delivering value to the customers, and by you know uh, providing them certain output, for example, and without involving them into any risk. What is value? Value is always defined by the customer. Some customers have different customers have different expectations of value. Some customers consider having a lower price is a value. The other customer may think that the having a reliability in service is more valuable. So value is defined by the customer. Different customers may have different expectations of value. So so there's no generalized the definition. It depends on the customer. It also depends on the customer's environment and customer's business, what they do. And then the process we just talked about, as I said, in ITIL version 3 foundation, we discussed 26 processes. And process is basically a set of activities that has a defined inputs and the defined outputs. For example, change management is a process, incident management is a process, problem management is a process. Problem management, the end output is find out the root cause of the problem, or incident, find out the root cause of the incident, why this happened. Or so there are different processes, 26 processes we have, and they are based on certain set of activities. Then we also discuss this term function, and there are only 4 functions discussed in the version 3, which is the 4 functions discussed in version 3, which are all belong to operations stage of service lifecycle. And functions is basically a team or group of people and the tools they use to carry out a certain process or activities. For example, service desk is an example of a function. So until now, I just went through quickly for some very basic ITIL definitions. If in case you are new to ITIL,